What's going on, everybody? Back with another video. Today, I wanted to make a video where I make a tier list of all the Resident Evil games. The reason I'm making this is because I just beat Resident Evil. I just got the platinum for Resident Evil Requiem. I have also been playing through every single Resident Evil mainline Resident Evil game leading up to Requiem and some after. So I have compiled all my thoughts, and I think I have a good idea where these games should be placed in the tier list. So let's hop on over to the list and see where we place these games. So for starters, let's just go through some of the ones that I have not played. Let's see. Haven't played Operation Raccoon City. Haven't played Umbrella Corps. Let's see. Haven't played the Survivor games as much as I would like to. I love the soundtrack to Dead Aim, but I have not played it. Gaiden. I have played a little bit, but not enough to put it on the tier list. Let's see. What else we got? Looking through. I played the Dark Side Chronicles and Umbrella Chronicles. I played RE-verse, but we're putting that in haven't played. Actually, we're just gonna put that in D tier. That's bad. D tier is gonna be the lowest tier. Resistance, put it in a high. We're gonna put that at a high D tier, just because I actually think Resistance was somewhat fun. So it's gonna be high D tier. It's not great by any means, but it's decent enough to where I'm like, okay, I could put that on a D. So we're gonna go in. Let's go in release order. Resident Evil 1. This might be controversial. I put Resident Evil 1 in A tier. I love Resident Evil 1. My only reason I put it in A tier is just because I think it is just dated now, and I think the remake is the definitive way to play Resident Evil 1. I love Resident Evil 1. I have multiple versions of it, but I don't come back to it as often. It was the first Resident Evil game I ever played. My dad had it on PS1, so that's how I played it and loved it. So yeah, Resident Evil 1, just a phenomenal game, started the series. We'll put that in A tier just because, you know, it's the start of it all. So it needs to be A. It can't be B. I don't think it can be S, because I think that's reserved for the remake, the GameCube remake. But yeah, Resident Evil 1, solid. Started it all. Phenomenal game. That goes in A tier. Second game, Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is an S tier. The original Resident Evil 2 is an S tier game. I think it takes everything from the original Resident Evil 1 and builds upon it. Claire, Leon, you get the A, the B scenario, and then you get the second playthrough where it's all switched up. So I think Resident Evil 2, in terms of design, in terms of atmosphere, in terms of voice acting is even a little bit better, even though it's still a little bit choppy. But I think Resident Evil 2 definitely deserves an S tier spot, just because it's such a great Resident Evil, and it doesn't really get much better than that. So yeah, Resident Evil 2, S tier. Phenomenal game. Amazing vibes. It's so good that the remake came out and had a pretty okay soundtrack, but the soundtrack of Resident Evil 2 original is so good that they added the original soundtrack into the 2 remake, and that's the only way that I play it. That's the only way that I play 2 remake now. So yeah, quite crazy. I don't think that's like the definitive reason why they added the soundtrack. I think it's just because Resident Evil 2 remake's soundtrack wasn't the greatest. But anyways, Resident Evil 2, enough yapping about non-important stuff. Resident Evil 2, phenomenal game. That deserves an S rank for sure. Really good stuff. I've been thinking about replaying that one again soon, because I haven't replayed the original in a little bit. So it'd be nice to hop back into that one. This is kind of just like an off-the-cuff video, by the way. I'm just no script, no nothing. I don't really even have gameplay. I apologize. I don't really have gameplay to put over these discussions. I just want to just chat one-on-one, talk about all these games. So, without further ado, let's continue on with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was next in the main line, right? Yeah, Resident Evil 3. Okay, Resident Evil 3. This is a high A tier game. The original Resident Evil 3 is a phenomenal game. Just exploring Raccoon City, Nemesis chasing you around, all the cool locations you go to, like the clock tower and the park and going back to the police station. Everything about Resident Evil 3 is very iconic. I think Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is, I think, more iconic than Resident Evil 2. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think all the elements in Resident Evil 3 were in like the live action Resident Evil Apocalypse movie. So I think Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is a very iconic video game. And Jill, I love Jill Valentine, favorite Resident Evil character. Playing as Jill again, escaping Raccoon City, all the selections you can make, like all the choices you can make in the story. It's like, okay, you can stay and fight Nemesis. It's going to be hard, but you can stay and fight him, or you can run away, or do this thing and go to this location instead of going to this location. It is a really cool and very replayable Resident Evil. The only reason I have it not in S tier is because I do think it's a little long. It's a little too long, and I think some of the puzzles really do bring it down. Like, I'm not one to like think puzzles like can make or break it, but I think some of the puzzles in this game really sorry. Ooh, God. Some of these puzzles really do have an impact on my ranking of Resident Evil 3, because like the puzzle towards the end of the game where you have to like the water puzzle, that thing sucks so bad. That's so and I think the randomization of puzzles is okay, but it makes playing through the game again not as enjoyable as other games, because all these have like puzzles that remain the same. But Resident Evil 3 Remake has the random chance puzzles. I don't like stuff like that in my Resident Evil games. So yeah, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, high A tier. It would be higher if some of the puzzles, if it was a little bit more condensed, I would have it a lot higher. It's a phenomenal game, though. It's not bad by any means. It's slightly below Resident Evil 2. Like, it's barely an S. It's like, it tiptoes into an S tier because it's so good. Playing as Jill, a Jill game is going to be pretty high. That's the theme of this, is like a lot of these Jill centric games, which we only have like a few. There's not a lot. That's the problem. They're gonna be pretty high. So yeah, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, high A tier, phenomenal game. I think it's a must play for everybody. So yeah, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, high A tier. Next, we move on to Code Veronica. Code Veronica, I think Code Veronica is a B tier. It is a really good game, and I think in terms of everything about it is in line with these. Like, I could put it in an A, or I could put it in the A tier any day of the week. But the only reason it's dragged down is the game design is pretty poor. Like, you shouldn't be able to soft lock your game. Like, it's got a lot of cool shit in it, but it's only in a B tier because it has some pretty poor game design moments. Like you can soft lock yourself if you don't pick up a certain item or leave certain items behind, or you get to a certain point, a certain boss, and you don't have enough ammo to beat it, and it just becomes impossible. Yeah, so Code Veronica, while it's a very phenomenal classic style Resident Evil, it's a classic style Resident Evil game, it has a lot holding it back. I think all the story stuff and all the locations are very fun, and the gameplay is just solid survival horror Resident Evil. It's just, it has a lot of game design stuff that really does hold it back. So the remake can't come soon enough. I think a remake this is probably the game that needed a remake the most. Like, I think even more than 2 and 3 and 4 and even 1, if they come back around to remake 1 again. I think Code Veronica is most deserving, and it seems like we're getting that next year, as some rumors say. So I'm keeping a close eye on Code Veronica, because I think that this could be something truly special when we come back around to it. So Code Veronica, great game, great vibe, great atmosphere, just fun gameplay. But yeah, the B tier, just because it's just not the best in terms of game design. It's pretty rough. So next up, I don't know which came first. This is my problem. I don't know which came first. I can't remember which game came first. Did Remake come out first, or did 0 come out first? Let's look this up. Resident Evil Remake GameCube release. GameCube release date. Let's see. March. No. That's. Oh my God. Look, we got the AI overview. Yay. So March. So April. So North America. The March release in Japan was March 22nd. April 30th for. Okay, so I think 0 came out. 0 came out later in there. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Resident Evil Remake. Resident Evil Remake. Oh shit. High S tier. I just did a run of this game again after playing Requiem, and for a while after getting the platinum for Requiem, I was like, dude, Resident Evil Requiem is my favorite game in the series. And then I did this playthrough of Resident Evil 1 Remake, and I'm like, dude, this is the best. This is such quality Resident Evil. Resident Evil Remake is the best remake that has ever been done in gaming history. I think it's better than 7 Remake. It's better than 4 it's better than 7 Final Fantasy 7 Remake. It's better than Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's better than 2 Remake for Resident Evil. Better than 3, obviously, but it's just the most well done remake I think I've ever played in gaming history. It is so well done, and it's the one remake that I think completely trumps the original game in terms of atmosphere and story and characters and new things added. Resident Evil Remake is phenomenal. Must play game. I don't even think I really have to say much else except this is the pinnacle of classic Resident Evil. I think this is like, if I were to tell anybody to play a classic Resident Evil game, I'd say play Resident Evil Remake on any platform. It's on everything. You can play it on GameCube. You can play it on the Wii. You could play it on Xbox 360, PS3, PS4, PS5, anything. It's on everything, and you should definitely play it if you haven't played it. I don't know why you're watching a Resident Evil tier list if you have not played Resident Evil Remake. So get on that. Resident Evil Remake, phenomenal game. Probably my favorite Resident Evil game. It's so good. It's so good. And it's just a game I come back to all the time. And after this most recent playthrough, before this most recent playthrough, I should say, I was like, yeah, I think I would really like to see them remake 1 again, to make it in line with 2, 3, and 4 remake. But after this most recent playthrough, I struggle to see how they can even remotely compete to this. I'm like, they have to do it. They have to take their sweet ass time to make Resident Evil 1 remake. If they go back and do Resident Evil 1, they have to do it. They have to strive to be better than this one. And even then, I don't even think they could, but they would have to make it the most complex remake in gaming history, because there's no way that the Resident Evil fan base is going to forgive you if it ends up like 3 remake. You have to make it, you have to do 2 scenarios. You have to do exactly like this remake right here. You have to do it exactly like the OG remake to even come close to being a phenomenal game. Like, they have to do a lot. That's like probably like, I think that's why I think there was a rumor that they started development of this recently, and I believe that they started like very recently, because this is going to take a few years. Like, this is going to be the most complex remake done, I think. And if they are working on a Resident Evil 1 remake, it is going to have to be as complex as that remake is, where it has every scenario, 2 different mansions to go through, Chris or Jill mansion. Like, you are going to have to make this the best thing possible. Like, it's going to have to beat out 2 remake, 3 remake, and 4 remake. Like, it is going to have to be so well done to earn the respect of gamers. And if you mess that up, it's over. Like, that's why I think that that's probably the most precious thing that they could do. This is the most precious version of Resident Evil that there is. Like, you can't mess up Resident Evil 1. Like, you have to remake it as good as they remade it back in the day. So yeah, Resident Evil 1 remake, probably the best Resident Evil game. That's high S tier. I don't think nothing will be above it. Probably. That's the spoiler alert for the video. Midway through the video, nothing will be above Resident Evil 1 remake. So, next up, Resident Evil 0. This is a low A tier. Resident Evil 0, I just did a playthrough of that recent. I did like a back-to-back playthrough of 0 and 1 remake. Resident Evil 0 is a really underrated game. It has game design issues that Code Veronica has, except Code Veronica, you don't get soft locked in Resident Evil 0. I was not soft locked in Resident Evil 0. Like, Resident Evil 0 it has its issues. It has very many issues, but the atmosphere and the tone of the game and the gameplay is just, it's like, it's 1 remake ramped up to like 11. It's harder. It's definitely much harder. It is a very hard game, but it's just like everything from these games, like 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and 1 remake. It's everything about those games distilled in its finest form, and this is just pure classic survival horror. So Resident Evil 0 is a low A tier. It's really good. I like the partner mechanics. I like the puzzles the partner mechanic was not the problem with Resident Evil 0. I think the problem with Resident Evil 0 is the backtracking, and like no item boxes is such a crazy choice. I don't know why they chose to do that. It is really nice to be able to like run around and just like, oh, I'm full, I need to pick this thing up, I need to set the item down. I think that can be cool, and it works in 0. But I just think it creates an issue where it's like you're backtracking a lot, and that's a big no-no with these games, because it's like it's slower than 1 remake, which bugs me a little bit. After playing these back-to-back, I played 0 and then I went and played 1. 1 remake runs so fast. I can breeze through that game. But 0 it feels more clunky. It's slower, but it's the new game, so it doesn't really make sense. The load times are kind of crazy too. But it's probably because I was playing on Switch. I had the Switch cartridge, and I think that's probably why I was running a little bit slow. It's a Switch problem probably, but it at the end of the day, it is still clunky to get around and control some of these. The controls are kind of funky, but besides that, Resident Evil 0 is a phenomenal game. I think it's really, really well done, Resident Evil, and I think it is severely underrated. I know it might be blasphemous to put it over Code Veronica and put it in A tier, but I think Resident Evil 0 is phenomenal. Very, 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 very well done game. And just all around, just a really, really, really good time. And I think everybody should play Resident Evil 0. I think you should play, if it's your first time in Resident Evil, if you're playing Resident Evil for the first time, do not play the remakes first. Play 2 Remake. 2 Remake is the best starting point for Resident Evil. Do not play 0. If you start with 0, you're not going to like Resident Evil. It is such a hard game and very, very obtuse that I could not recommend. But if you've played Resident Evil before, and if you played the classics but haven't played 0 for some chance, you need to play 0. It's really good and very underrated. So low A tier for Resident Evil 0. What was after that? Resident Evil 4? This is gonna be a controversial placement, even though it's like high A tier. Resident Evil 4 original. What's left to be said about this game other than it's a masterpiece? It's a phenomenal game. Resident Evil 4 is a phenomenal game. It takes the series in a new direction. It's action focused. It's a very, very fun, amazing time to get through. The reason I have it in a high A tier instead of an S tier is because I think, and I love the original. I have it. I have this on every single console imaginable. We got it on PS4. We got it on Switch. I got the Wii version. I got the PS2 version. I have this game on everything. I have it on Xbox. I have it on absolutely everything. The only reason I put it in high A tier instead of an S tier is because I think it is dated now. And after playing 4 Remake, I think the remake of 4 is in my personal opinion a slightly better game than 4 Remake, just because, I think it's slightly better than 4 original because I like the gameplay and the tone of 4 Remake rather than the tone of 4 Classic. I think 4 Classic is iconic for many, many reasons. It's a phenomenal game. It is by no means me putting it in high A tier instead of an S tier is me trying to be edgy. It's just after playing the game throughout the years, I just come to find that I don't like how disjointed 4 feels. Like you're bouncing around many different locations and many different things are happening, but it all feels disjointed. It's like you start in the village, then you go to the castle, and then you're underground, and then you're on an island. It's just like it feels disjointed, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't like how it's apart from the rest of the story of Resident Evil. Like, yeah, Ada and Leon are there, but it doesn't have anything to do with the rest of... It doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the story of Resident Evil. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with Umbrella, Chris, Jill, anything. Well, like, I'm not saying that it has to. Me personally, I like the games being connected, and Resident Evil 4 always feels like... It's a phenomenal game, but it always feels like it's like the weird cousin that goes off and does his thing. It's the Thanksgiving walk. Resident Evil 4 is the Thanksgiving walk with the cousin. You know, you going on the after Thanksgiving walk. That is what Resident Evil 4 original is, and there's nothing wrong with that because those are fun walks. So, yeah, Resident Evil 4, there's nothing much I could say that hasn't already been said about Resident Evil 4, but that is just a phenomenal game. But I put it in high A tier because I do like other Resident Evils better. I think other Resident Evil games are better than 4. 4 is great. but I think it's its own thing. But where that gets tricky and complicated is Resident Evil. I know that's probably like super controversial, but I'm a Resident Evil 5 truther. That is a high B tier. I don't think it gets. I think it's, after playing through it recently, towards the beginning of my recent playthrough of 5, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see how this is like a low A. It's really great, and I honestly think I like this version of Resident Evil better than 4, just based on story stuff. Like I think the story and stuff is a lot better in 5 than it is in 4. I know that's frowned upon, but it's just I like all the ties to Resident Evil. I like seeing Wesker, I like seeing Jill, I like all the things that make it a Resident Evil game. Talking about Spencer, all this stuff. It's crazy fun. But I think that Resident Evil 5 is a high B tier. I almost put it in A, but there's enough dumb stuff that happens in 5 that is, gameplay wise, that is just kind of frustrating and makes it like Sheva dying randomly if you're playing solo. It's a great co-op experience. I like playing it with my girlfriend. It's very fun, but Sheva dying randomly is not my idea of a fun time. So I put it in a high B just because I think it could be better, but it has the gameplay. It has everything that people love about 4. It's just for some reason 4 just does it better than 5. But if 5 didn't have random bullshit, I would put that above 4. If 5 didn't have random dumb shit in it, I would put it above 4, because I actually think I enjoy playing 5 more than I enjoy playing 4 original, just because I kind of like everything that 5 has going on more than I like whatever 4 has going on. So yeah, 5 is a high B tier. Just has a lot of random nonsense that just kind of... I like all the story stuff in 5 a lot more than I like the story stuff in 4, but I like 4's gameplay more than I like 5 is what I should say. And I also hate the inventory system in 5. That kind of like drags it back down. Like if this had the attaché cases in 5, I think I could put it above 4. I think that's a big problem, is like I feel like I never have any space. They give you way too little inventory to survive in 5. It's kind of a frustrating game to play through, but it is pretty good, and I think it has more good things about it than 4 does. It improves upon 4 by a lot, but it has a lot of random bullshit that drags it down to B tier, in my honest opinion. What came after? Did Revelations come before 6? That's my question. I can't remember which came first. Mercenaries 3D. We're just going to put that. I think Mercenaries 3D came out next. Mercenaries 3D. That is a solid C tier. That is a solid C tier game. It is really good, but the only reason I put it in C tier is it's just the Mercenaries on the 3DS. So it's not as in depth as the Mercenaries was in 5. And I should probably talk on that real quick. Resident Evil 5 has the best Mercenaries mode outside of 4 Remake. It is so good. That is the best version of Mercenaries. But anyways, back to Mercenaries 3D. It's a really fun time, and I love playing it from time to time. Like every now and then I'll boot up my 3DS and I'll just play Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. It's very fun. It's just very bare bones and not a very in-depth game. It's just the Mercenaries mode as its own game on the 3DS. Nothing crazy, but it's not a bad game. I just put it in C tier just because it lacks depth. That's the only problem. It doesn't have a whole lot of depth. It's just a fun time, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not much to say about it, so we'll probably move on. Oh, wait. I'm like going out of release order. I might as well go out of release order. The Outbreak games. Outbreak games are a high C tier. They're really good, and I think they're a fun time. It's just they're way ahead of their time. They're really great. We got Alyssa Ashcroft from these games. They're very fun times. I have not played them online, so I can't really get the full experience of it. So I put it in high C tier just because they're really great, but just I think they're lacking. I think they need to be like redone or re-released so people can play these games in an accessible manner, because it has a lot of cool stuff going on for Resident Evil. It's just I just don't have much to say because I haven't really had the full experience of those. I'm gonna show you guys that I put them in C tier, but I think I'm gonna put them in haven't played before just because I haven't got the full experience, and I think that kind of drags it down. So I don't think it's fair for me to rank it. But if I had to rank it based on a solo experience, I put it in C tier. So, yeah, they're very hard to solo, but I'm gonna put Outbreak in haven't played before just because I think I haven't got the full experience. So I don't feel like it's fair to rank those, unfortunately. Fun times, but not something I've played the actual way it was intended to be played enough to rank it. So yeah, we'll move on. We'll put Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles in high C tiers. These games are so good. I love the Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles games. I really like playing on-rail shooter Resident Evil. It's like House of the Dead, but Resident Evil. So it's very fun, and it has a lot of cool story stuff, especially in Darkside Chronicles. But yeah, just a fun on-rails shooter. Nothing too crazy. Nothing really wild to talk about. Just fun time. Play them if you haven't played them. If you have a way to play them, play them. But yeah, good time. But I could not honestly put these in a B tier or a D. I couldn't even put them in D tier. So I think high C is good because they have more going on than Mercenaries 3D. So that's why they're higher up. Darkside above Umbrella because Darkside Chronicles has cool story stuff in it. But yeah, good games, good on-rail shooters. Since we're going out of release order, Revelations. Resident Evil Revelations is a very underrated game. I feel like it's forgotten now because this was a highlight of this era of Capcom where they were kind of just not making great games. But Resident Evil Revelations was a phenomenal Resident Evil game that was on the 3DS and then ported to other consoles. It was one of the first Resident Evil games that I bought. I think it's the first Resident Evil game that I bought myself as a kid. And I love Resident Evil Revelations. It was so fun to play a Resident Evil that was good again on 3DS, and it looks so good. It has no reason to be as good as it was for a 3DS game. It was such a phenomenal title to have in handheld mode just because of how it's laid out, like episodically. It wasn't an episodic game. That's where Revelations 2 became episodic. But the first Revelations, it was set up episodically to where it's like it was perfect for handheld play, and it was really good. And I think the reason I would have put it in an A tier, like a low A tier, I think it works better in handheld. Like if you play it on Switch or 3DS, I think is an A tier. But like it being a full console experience kind of detracted from it and showed a lot of the issues, because whenever you're playing on handheld and it's stuck on a handheld device, it's like, okay, this is a great Resident Evil game for handheld. But when you bring it to consoles, I think it kind of loses some of that magic and kind of shows its problems because all the enemies look the same. There's not a lot of variety and things you can do because it's stuck on handheld mode. Because it's a console, it's a handheld game that was brought to consoles, and it just doesn't feel as good as, let's say, a 5 or a 4 or any of these other games. But it is a really good game, and the director of Revelations is the director of Resident Evil Requiem, and that shows because his stories, like his Resident Evil stories, are really great. And he directed 7 too, so it's like he kind of directs like some of the like best Resident Evil games. Like Revelations, phenomenal game. I think it works better as handheld. I think we need to bring the Revelations series back because I think they're really well done games. But yeah, Revelations 1, that is a high B because it's good. And I'm ranking it based on my first experience with it and it being a handheld title and playing it on Switch and 3DS. When you bring it to consoles, it kind of loses a little bit of that, and you could put it a little here. Let's put it in. I'll put it in low B. I'll put it in low B, just because I do think Code Veronica and 5 are better. But it is a well done game. We'll put that in low B, just because I think that's a proper place because it is more. It's off the 3DS now, so I think it kind of detracts a little bit from the experience of it not being a pure handheld title. Then it doesn't seem as good as. I don't even know how to explain that. It's just when you take a handheld game that was built for 3DS. Like it is a 3DS game through and through. It being solely on 3DS makes it a phenomenal Resident Evil game, but it being off of the 3DS, it kind of like loses its charm because it's like, oh, well now that it's on consoles, it should be a little bit better. But it's not. It's just a 3DS game, just with better controls, and I think that becomes a problem when you're making when you're porting something over. Like I think they should have added more to it, and they really did not. Like I think there's like a new enemy type, but that's not enough to bump it up a little bit more. So yeah, Revelations, low B. Now we move on to Resident Evil 6. If you were to ask me before Requiem was announced and I played through 6, I would have said, hey, it's a low B tier. But I think I'm going to put Resident Evil 6 in a high C, just because I think it's a good game. I do think Resident Evil 6 is a good game and a good Resident Evil game, but it's not. It is kind of a mess. And after playing through it again recently, I'm like, okay, I do really like Resident Evil 6. I don't think it's bad. Like, people think that this game killed their moms. It's not that bad. Resident Evil 6 is not the worst thing imaginable. It's a really good game. Like, I think it's a solid game. It's a freaking mess of a time. Like, everything, it's too bloated. It has too much stuff going on. Resident Evil 6 wishes it could be what Requiem was, where it's just like it blends multiple different genres together, and it just doesn't hit that mark. It's a game, great gameplay. I think it has the most fun out of the 3. I'd say out of 4, 5, and 6, I think 6 has the most fun gameplay out of all of those. It is so fun to just like slide around and roll around and dive and like do crazy melee stuff to zombies in 6. That is so fun, and I think it has great gameplay, but everything else about it is just not great. Leon's campaign is pretty great, and if it was Leon's campaign alone, I'd put it in B, but it has too much stuff going on, too many characters, too many things going on. Not great enough to put it in a low B. So Resident Evil 6, I don't really feel like talking about that game more, just because it's just not the best in the series. So we'll put it in a high C, because I do think it is better than these 3 right here. Resident Evil 6 is pretty good. It's just not the best. Resident Evil Revelations 2. This is another one that I put it above Resident Evil 6. I like Resident Evil Revelations 2, and I think I need to play it again, but I just don't. I don't like Resident Evil Revelations 2 as much as I like Revelations 1. I think Revelations 2, playing as Claire and having all that stuff, it's pretty great, but I think it kind of Resident Evil Revelations 2 is just not. This has just kind of just been a low point. Like these games are just kind of a low point for Capcom. It's just not the best, and I don't like the story a whole lot. I think the story is kind of blah, and the gameplay is kind of meh. I just don't like it a whole lot. It kind of feels Last of Us coded in a way. Like there's something that I get the vibe of, not saying that's a bad thing because The Last of Us is a phenomenal game. It's just like it felt like it was trying to be something it wasn't. And it's just not the best. I like playing as Claire. I think Claire being in it is pretty sick. I like her being there, but it's not the best. And honestly, it kind of makes me tired thinking about it. So Revelations 2, I know this is kind of detracting, and I'm sure there's like Revelations 2 fans out there. I'm one of them. I actually do like Revelations 2 quite a bit, but it's just not the best. It's the one I've played the least of out of all these. Like, I'm just not high on Revelations 2. I'm probably going to give it another shot. I'm playing it on Switch 2 and see if I like it, but it's just not my favorite, and I think there are better games in the series. Sorry. It's a good game. It's a good game. I think Revelations 2 is a good game. It's just not what I would pick. Out of all of these, I'd play 6 again before I play Revelations 2. But I do think it is better. I do think Revelations 2 is better than 6. It's just something about Revelations 2 I'm not a big fan of. It's a good sub-series that I think needs to come back. Like, I think we need a Revelation series to kind of like fill in some time in between. Like, I would like, before we start getting more remakes, I would like a Revelations game to come back. Like, I think Revelations would be fun to revisit before we start doing more remakes, because I think we need a lot more new things in Resident Evil, because the new things you're going to see are going to rank very high. But yeah, Revelations 2, high C. Sorry, I just don't have much to say, just because it's just like, I'm so unoffended by this, and I think that's a big problem. It's just, I have no feeling towards Revelations 2, really. I just kind of feel numb to Revelations 2. It's just not my favorite. But I'm going to revisit it soon, so maybe my opinion will change. All right. Now we're getting to, like, the good shit. We're getting to, like, the real good shit. Like, modern Resident Evil is pretty solid. 7 is an S tier. Resident Evil 7 is a game that saved Capcom and kind of saved Resident Evil in general. It brought the series back to what it needs to be. It just needs to be a horror game that is fun to play and just a blast to get through. I remember I was working at a Michael's. It was a winter. It was like winter 2017. December. I had just got a PS4 like a month before. I was like, oh yeah, Resident Evil 7 came out. I want to get back into Resident Evil, because I dropped off after Revelations 1, actually. Like, Revelations 1 is like where I was like, okay, this is good. But I kind of dropped off because I didn't like 2. I didn't like Revelations 2, and I didn't like 6. But 7, there was a GameStop next to the Michael's I was working at, and during my lunch break, I walked down to the GameStop, and I was like, I'm going to buy Resident Evil 7, because I can play Resident Evil 7 now. I got a PS4. I bought Resident Evil 7. If I didn't play that game, I would not be sitting here making this video. This made me realize how much I loved Resident Evil, and it changed how I think about games heavily. Like, 7 is such a phenomenal game that I don't think I think it's probably one of the most important video games ever made. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like it really is very important to all of these games, especially modern Resident Evil. This set the standard for Resident Evil going forward, and I think it is the pinnacle of survival horror gameplay in the modern era. I don't think it's better than 1. I don't think it's better than the originals, but it is quite honestly one of the best games ever made, and I think it deserves to be recognized as such. And I think people kind of forget about 7 in today's day and age. I don't hear a lot of talk about Resident Evil 7 anymore. It's just a really good game. I think it just takes everything that was done in the past, brings it to a modern era, and creates something very terrifying. Like to this day, I think is the scariest game I've ever played. It is a really, really fun time, and I love Resident Evil 7. It has its issues. Like I think the 30-minute, it's not great for replayability. Like it gives you like a new difficulty to play, Madhouse difficulty, but the intro is too long, and it takes a while to get to like proper gameplay, that enough so that I put it in the lower S ranking, just because it is dated slightly now, but it is still a phenomenal game, and it is one of the most important games ever made. So yeah, that's where I put Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. There's not much I could say except it's a masterpiece, and it's one of the most important games ever made. Hands down, one of the most important video games ever made. It saved Capcom, and it saved Resident Evil. We would not be talking about the rest of these games on the list if it wasn't for 7. And I definitely wouldn't be here talking about Resident Evil, because I was kind of like, I'm done with Resident Evil. It kind of sucks now, but 7 saved it and brought it back to full strength. So, brought it back to fine. It took a green herb. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was the green herb to Capcom. No, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was not even the green herb. It was the first aid spray to Capcom and Resident Evil as a whole. That's my stance. Put that in quotes. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was the first aid spray to Capcom and Resident Evil as a whole. Anyways, enough joking around. Resident Evil 2 Remake. I put it below 7. I do like it more than... I think I do appreciate it more than 7, but I put it below 7 just because I think 7 is a more important game than Resident Evil 2 Remake is. Resident Evil 2 Remake just takes everything from 7 that was amazing and just creates a survival horror experience. It takes the original Resident Evil 2 and blends it together with 7 in terms of tone and atmosphere, and creates a phenomenal remake to a classic, which is Resident Evil 2 Original. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a phenomenal title that I think is kind of like where the remakes kind of peaked. I think the modern remakes kind of peaked. Like 2 Remake is pretty good. Well, I wouldn't say that, because 4 Remake's on here, and I think that's pretty good. But 4 Remake, or 2 Remake, is a quality experience. Like, it is probably one of my most played games of all time. Like, it is so fun to replay this game over and over and over again. Both Claire and Leon's scenarios and the second playthroughs, they're really, really well done. And just the vibe and the tone and bringing us to a modern interpretation of Raccoon City is really, really cool. And it does a lot of cool stuff with Resident Evil that I think the original characters needed. Like, this version of Leon's the best. This version of Claire is the best we've ever seen. Like, that's kind of like the theme of these remakes, is like, it takes the characters we love from these games and brings them up to modern sensibilities. So yeah, Resident Evil 2 Remake is an S tier game. Phenomenal. There's not much I can say about it except that it's phenomenal. Not much to say that hasn't already been said. So yeah, Resident Evil 2, low S tier. Very, 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 very phenomenal game. And after that, we move on to Resident Evil 3 Remake. Guys. It is an A tier. I'm sorry. People are going to be upset about this. is an A tier. A very low A tier. I think it's a little bit better than 0. Resident Evil 3 Remake does not get enough love. I understand why people don't like it because it's not as faithful of a remake as 2 was to 2 original. 3 Nemesis, I think this is really where I start to juggle with, okay, well then what do I want a remake to be? Do I want a remake to be the exact same thing with a new coat of paint? Or do I want it to be something different? And I think I want these remakes to be something different. So I think 3, it's funny that 3 Remake and Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out in the same year because they both do the same things. I think they both do the same things. They both take the original games and just kind of build upon them or just change them to fit modern sensibilities. And I think 3 Remake is a phenomenal game. It may not be the best remake of 3 that we could have gotten. Like, I think you could have done a lot of what 3 did in the original and brought that into a remake, and I think it would have been a phenomenal game. But I think what I love about it kind of fits the tone of the rest of the remakes in the Resident Evil franchise, because there's a lot of dumb stuff that happens in 3 original that just I just don't see fitting in the remake of 3. You know, I just don't think some of the things in 3 original would fit the vibe of 3 remake and the rest of the remake games or this new modern era of Resident Evil. I just don't think it would fit, and I think it does a lot of stuff better, like especially Jill's character. This is the best version of Jill Valentine we've ever gotten in a Resident Evil game. In Resident Evil 3 Remake, the performances are phenomenal. The gameplay is so fun. And I like how short it is. I know people complain about how short it is, but I mean, that's kind of the Resident Evil thing, you know? 2 Remake is just as short as 3. If you know what you're doing in 2, you could beat it in the same time that it'll take you to beat Resident Evil 3. These games are short. They're short games. They're meant to be played over and over and over again. And I think 3 Remake does that perfectly. It's more replayable than 7. I'll say that. I think I played 3 Remake more than I've replayed 7. 7's the better game, but 3 Remake is the most replayable. And I think that's the thing about Resident Evil is, like, these games are replayable for a reason. Like, they give you stuff to do. They give you new things to get to make your next playthrough much more fun and more engaging. And 3 Remake does that great, and I like the story that it tells, and I like the characters in it, and I think this is probably the best we've seen of Jill Valentine and Carlos. It is just phenomenal, and people complain that Nemesis isn't great in 3 Remake, but 3 Remake Nemesis, I think 3 original Nemesis is this shit's kind of annoying, you know? It's like, sometimes I just don't want to deal with that shit. And I think 3 Remake kind of fixes that issue for me. It's like, I don't want to deal with that shit. I like it in its moments. Like, I like it as this... I kind of do like Nemesis being a scripted thing because it just kind of makes it action-packed. And Resident Evil 3 original was supposed to be a more action-packed Resident Evil, and it was. And so 3 Remake does that and just makes it more action-heavy and more straightforward. And... it's just a fun time. I just think it's a blast. It's a fun story. It's a fun time, and I don't think we're really missing much. I do think 3 original is better by a lot. I do think it is better. Like, after having recently replayed both, I do think 3 original is better. It is a better game, but I don't think 3 Remake... I think 3 Remake is its own thing. I like this as its own. Like, if I take the nostalgia goggles off, I would put 3 Remake in low S tier for me, but it is where it is. I think it's a little bit better than 0 just because it doesn't have the same bullshit that 0 has, and it's definitely under 3 Nemesis because it's not as good as that, but it is still a good thing on its own, And I think that's kind of what you have to do with remakes. You kind of have to understand that remakes are remakes for a reason. They are reimagining these games for a modern audience. They're not taking exactly what was done and putting it into the thing. They're trying to create something new with something we love. And I think that's the kind of remake I like, where it's like it subverts expectations. I think we need to accept these remakes for what they are, as a new experience. It doesn't replace they're not here to replace the originals. They're here to the only excuse of a remake this is just one remake. Resident Evil 1 remake is the only exception to replacing the original. It's just such a lightning in a bottle moment for Resident Evil, where it's like, yeah, one remake is better than the original, but that's like the exception. That's like very rare where that happens, and I think that's the lightning in the bottle of Resident Evil 1 remake, is because the thing with 1 remake is that it was Shinji Mikami directing the game. So it's basically like, okay, well, you had the creator of Resident Evil working on the remake, so of course it's going to be better than the original. You don't have that with 3 and 2 remake, but the thing is like, I don't think 3 remake is a bad game. People say that this is the bad game. It's definitely not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very good Resident Evil game. It's just you kind of gotta like take the nostalgia goggles off and play it for what it is a very good game, not a great remake. Like, these are reimaginings. They're not remakes. If you want a 1-to-1 remake of a game, you're just not going to get it. It's very rare where that's going to happen. What you're wanting is a remaster. Not a remake. A remake is taking what we love and doing something new with it. That's the idea of a remake. And 2 remake even did that. 2 doesn't even have everything that 2 original has, but it is still a good, it's not 1-for-1, but it's still a great time. I think 2 and 3 remake are like a combined package. These two go hand in hand. I think they complement each other pretty well, and they're both the same they're both the same thing, basically. They're both the same kind of remake, except 2 just had a little bit more production value. That's the only difference, I think, in 2 and 3. That may be a hot take, but it's not like I'm putting 3 remake above the original. I'm not. That's silliness, but it is a good game. 3 remake is a good game, and I think people need to give it its flowers, because it is a phenomenal time. You just got to take those nostalgia goggles off and think about what really is a remake. But anyways, done enough yapping about 3. Let's move on to Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village is a phenomenal game. I know I think it's kind of getting like a lot of hate recently. Like, I've seen more hate for Village in recent times than I have ever. I think it's a phenomenal game. The tone and the coolness of the locations is unmatched. Like, I think it's a very unique Resident Evil game. Like, doing like werewolves and vampires and shit. Like, that is so cool for a Resident Evil that I think it deserves its flowers, because the setting is really awesome. Like, I will remember this setting for Resident Evil for many a times to come. And like, obviously the Dimitrescu castle section is probably some of the best Resident Evil has been. One of the best locations by far in Resident Evil, and probably one of the most iconic Resident Evil locations ever. Village is just great. I love what they did with Ethan Winters in this, and I love all the story stuff and slight ties to Umbrella that you find. It's really cool. It's really cool lore-wise, and it kind of does what I kind of wanted 7 to do, but with story. But I think Village is phenomenal. I don't think it's as good. After many replays, I don't think it's as good as these up here, and I don't think it's as good as these, but I think Village is a really well done video game and is one that deserves a playthrough if you haven't played it before. There's not much I could say except just play Village. It's just good. Some things are pretty rough. Like, I don't like the factory section. That's pretty bad Resident Evil location, but besides that, it's great otherwise. And like the House Beneviento, that's a crazy section. That is probably some of the I think that section is scarier than some of the stuff in 7, which is saying a lot because 7 is the scariest game I've ever played. But yeah, Village, that's going to go up there in A tier. We're going to put that in A tier. It's a good one. Not better than these, but Village is pretty great. I'm going to rapid fire through these because I'm like kind of getting long of the tooth with a lot of these things. So let's just continue on to Resident Evil 4 Remake. Resident Evil 4 Remake is quite honestly one of the best video games I've ever played. It takes everything that I had a problem with in 4 Original and just makes it better. Like, it gives me a version of Leon that I like more than 4 Original. It does gameplay stuff better than I like 4 Original. It does tone stuff that I like better than 4 Original. But it keeps a lot of what 4 did, but makes it more palatable and less jarring. And I think it fits the tone of Resident Evil perfectly. It puts the horror back in Resident Evil, because I don't think 4 Original is scary, but I don't think it's as scary as 4. It doesn't do horror as well as the atmosphere. What I should say is the atmosphere of 4 Remake is so great, and also the DLC Separate Ways bumps it up a lot, because that is probably hands down one of the best Resident Evil experiences I've ever had. Is playing as Ada in that DLC is so fun and such a great time and such a good story. I like what they do with Ada in this. I know that's controversial because a lot of people don't like the voice actor's performance as Ada, but I like it a lot, and Ada's just a very likable character in this. What else can I say? Like, the Ashley section is a lot better. Anything to do with Ashley is better in 4. Like, the characters, that's the thing about these remakes that I think does so well, is that they take the characters and make them so enjoyable and so likable more than they did in their original iterations. So yeah, 4 Remake, not much I could say except it's just the best I think it's my personal best version of Resident Evil 4. The Mercenaries mode, the DLC with Ada, the combat, the exploration, the progression, the guns, everything's so good in Resident Evil 4 Remake that it is hands down one of the best games I've ever played. By far. It is a masterpiece of a game. It's the first game that I put above 2. It's still below 1 Remake, because I think 1 Remake is probably my favorite Resident Evil. But yeah, 4 Remake, so good, so well done. Takes a classic and makes it even better somehow. Don't even know how that's possible, but they're very well done. Very, very well done games. But anyways, moving on to the last one. Very recent. Resident Evil Requiem. The whole reason for making this video in the first place. That is below Resident Evil 1 Remake. Resident Evil Requiem is a very, very, very well done 30 years of Resident Evil put into one game. This is such a phenomenal time and such a well done Resident Evil story. It kind of takes the problems that I had with 7 and Village, where they feel disjointed from the rest, besides Chris Redfield being in both of those. It takes the disjointedness and just makes a badass new Resident Evil game. It's like, oh, this is full on Resident Evil. There's Umbrella. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it does stuff with the lore of Resident Evil that is so well done that exceeded my expectations by a lot. Like, I was excited for this game, obviously, because I love Resident Evil, but dude, Resident Evil Requiem is just an all-time great time. It is such a good game. I got the platinum. I 100%ed everything in the game. It is a blast, and I think people need to give it its flowers, and I hope it remains in the limelight, because I don't want to see like years down the line it's like, actually Resident Evil Requiem sucked. It's like, no, dude. Resident Evil Requiem is everything about Resident Evil that is phenomenal put into one game. The only reason I could not tell, I couldn't tell a newcomer to be like, okay, go play Requiem. It has everything about Resident Evil that's amazing. I think what makes Requiem so great is past and prior knowledge of the rest of the series. Like, this is a love letter to Resident Evil, and is just a very phenomenal game. The reason I wavered, like, if this were a week ago, Requiem would be in my number one. If this were like a week ago, Requiem would be my number one. But I just replayed Resident Evil 1 remake, and I just think that's the best Resident Evil's been. So yeah, Resident Evil Requiem, my number 2 favorite Resident Evil game of all time, and a certified classic. But this is my list for the best this is my tier list of Resident Evil. Let me know what you think down below. Call me an idiot for putting some of these in A tier. Call me an idiot for talking about Resident Evil 3 remake the way that I did, but this is just a phenomenal game series, and there's nothing that I think is truly bad. The closest I think we get to truly bad are something like Operation Raccoon City or Umbrella Corps. I haven't even played those, but I know that those are bad. Resistance and Reverse, the games that I have played, I think that's the closest we get to truly bad Resident Evil. Like, I don't think any of these mainline ones are bad. Like, the lowest ranking mainline game is Resident Evil 6. Out of many, many titles, the 6th one is the lowest ranking. And everything is like either in a B or an A or an S tier. This is a phenomenal series, and yeah, I loved doing this. This was fun. This is a bit of a long one, bit of a unscripted one too. But let me know what you guys think down below. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. I have an idea floating around for like a big video project. I'll give more details when I can. I'm still working on it, because it's gonna be a long one. Like, that one might come out like in the summertime at some point. But I got more videos coming soon. The year's ramping up a little bit, so there's gonna be reviews and more showcases happening in the future. So I'm sure you'll see me around with those, and with whatever other ideas I could come up with. Yeah. What can I say? Resident Evil's awesome. This has been a fun video to make. We're at an hour long, so I'm going to have to cut this down just a little bit. It's going to be a bigger one. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you later.